So we got a brand new book review, and today's book is The Prince. And this book is very interesting, and I think a lot of people misunderstand what the book is about. A lot of people don't understand the baseline of this book, and the baseline of this book is the state before anything. So it's basically telling you, like, when you're in a position of power, when you have authority over others, like, you need to weigh out the best option, even if it makes you look like an absolute just cruel person. Like, if it comes at the benefit of the state, this is the decision that you have to make. And it basically outlines how to be a good ruler and how to do things in a manner that will benefit the state the most and benefit your long rule the most, because nothing is worse than when you have a kingdom and it has all new bosses. Like, you've seen that corporation. Like, Disney's had the 2, 3 different CEOs in the past few years, and look at their stock price. Like, when there's different management, when different people are at the top, like, it's just an inefficient way to go about it, and you need that stability. And that's what this book is all about. It's about ensuring that you have a long rule and that your state prospers throughout that rule. But it's interesting to look at it from a perspective from nowadays, because look, we don't have principalities like we used to. Like, you go to medieval Europe, or even during the colonial ages, like, it's not set up the same way. We have a different system, but there's still so many lessons in this book that are applicable today, just because of, I think, if you're in a position of power, you need to know how to deal with people. You need to know how to be diplomatic. You need to know how to make certain decisions and not come off like a good guy, but do it because it's for the benefit of the company. It's for the benefit of your position. It's so people don't stab you in the back. And it's a very important lesson to learn. And that's what you can gain from this book. This book is basically the first version of the 48 Laws of Power. And it's just an interesting thing to read, because it brings into perspective, like, human nature hasn't really changed. Like, one of the chapters in the book is, when you first take over a nation, like, you need to be brutal right away and cut it out after that. Like, if you're going to be brutal, make sure you take everyone that's going to challenge your power right away out, and then be a good leader, then be a nice ruler, then be a generous person. And that way the people won't resent you. And it's the similar thing when there's a hostile takeover at a corporation. They fire everyone, and then the people that are still around, they get treated like normal employees, and then the company moves forward, and oftentimes the company thrives. And it's interesting to see that these things follow us through history, and that these things are persistent. And that's why this book is so good, because you can learn so many things. And I had a history professor, or no, history teacher. This was in high school, and he would basically always quote this book, because it's the quintessential book of any ruler. Like, I think pretty much every single ruler throughout history has read this. At least the good ones probably have. And he would always say it's better to be feared than loved, but not hated. And this is something that you can take with yourself today. Like, if you're going to run a company, it's nice to have all of your employees be your friends, but at the same time, they're going to take advantage of that situation. They're going to say, like, oh, this guy's my friend, I don't have to work that hard. Oh, this guy's my friend, he's not going to make sure that I'm on task and make sure that I'm doing this. He's going to have more sympathy when I say, like, oh, my wife was yelling at me last night. But if you're seen as the boss, if you're seen as an authority figure, like, these people are going to be more reserved, and these people are going to be more willing to listen to your directions, and they're going to be more afraid of the consequences if they don't follow through on a project, if they don't meet a deadline. And that's why you have to ensure that this is the air that you create when you have a company, or the air that you create when you're in a position of power. And it's so true, because think, like, when you're chummy with your employees, they're not going to give you the best work, and you need to create that separation, especially in nowadays culture, like, with all of the HR and all this other stuff. Like, you don't want to get too close to your employees, because you make one wrong joke and boom, there goes your company, there goes your job. You're going to have to liquidate those assets. But at the same time, you don't want to be hated, because let's say if you're hated and your employees don't like you, and you don't pay them enough, and you overwork them, and this and this and this, like, they're just going to quit. They're just going to find another job. They're going to say it's not worth it. So it's all about finding that balance. And there's so many lessons in this book. Like, I literally just flipped to this page. I can't find one. Of those who have attained a principality through crimes. Like, it's just so interesting, like, looking through history. And there's a chapter in this book where Machiavelli basically says like all of the great men throughout history have learned from another great man. Like Caesar learned from Scipio, or I don't know if I said that right. Or Caesar learned from Alexander, and Alexander learned from Scipio. Again, I don't know how to say this name, but I wish I had. But at the same time, like I think it's something that you should really look into. This book's about 100 pages. I can't suggest it more. It gives a lot of insight on strategy, a lot of insight on how to make decisions as a ruler and how to make the unpopular decision at the expense of your how people view you, and do it for the benefit of the state. And it's something that, honestly, it's a pretty interesting philosophical question. Like, are you willing to sacrifice your morals if it means the state, your company, the people around you are better off? And that's what this book is basically going to convince you whether or not you should do that. So I think you should check this book out. I'll leave a link in the description. And yeah, thank you so much for making this far, and I'll catch you in the next one.